Good evening, everybody. Thank y'all for coming out. I'm Reese Boyd, chairman of the Horry County Republican Party. Thank y'all for coming tonight to the South Carolina Attorney General candidates debate and to hear from the candidates. It's an exciting thing to be a part of. It's a privilege to be able to welcome you on behalf of the Horry County Republican Party. And I'm going to ask Pastor Chris Honeycutt with Forward Church to come, and he's going to open us up in prayer. Chris, you want to do it down there, or you want to do it up here?
All right, y'all, let's bow our heads. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to hear from these candidates about such an influential position in our state. The Attorney General is the vanguard of our state. And Lord, we pray, Lord, that whoever is elected, Lord, will stand tall and stand on godly values, conservative values, and for the people of South Carolina. Lord, just bless our conversations tonight. Let us all be peaceable and be united as Republicans, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Our state executive committeeman, John Griffith, who represents the party in Columbia, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you all rise and join in with me? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so thank you. We're going to have an opening statement from each of our candidates. And we drew earlier. Stephen, you get to go first. Stephen Goldfinch, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you all. Thank you, Reese. Thank you, Kathy, and everybody that helped put this thing on. This is, mic's a little bit hot, a little bit way hot. How about that one? See if that one's any better. Test, test, test. That might be better. I don't know. We'll try it. Sorry, David. I messed you up. Already creating problems. Welcome. I know that you have better things you could be doing on a Wednesday night, so thank you for coming and spending a couple hours with us. And I'd also like to thank my family, my wife, Renee, and our kids. My wife, Renee, and I've been married 20 years this upcoming month. And my kids, and I'd like to just say, even though I know that I'm going a lot nowadays, I know that God has called us to do this, so thank you so much for sticking with me. To begin with, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm a veteran. I'm a military prosecutor. I'm a judge advocate general. I'm a conservative senator. And I'm an entrepreneur and a businessman. As a veteran, I deployed to a combat zone in North Africa. I prosecuted sex crimes, violent predators, offenders that threaten soldiers, the mission, and national security. I became the chief of military justice while I was there. I became the chief of military justice for AFRICOM. It's a big job. And I've advised 2 to 4-star commands and commanding generals on national security law and combat operational law. As a conservative senator, I created the tools for prosecutors like these guys to hold bad guys accountable. I did bond reform. I helped draft it and pass bond reform, which ended the revolving door of a criminal who gets arrested and then gets put right back out on the street. I helped draft and pass homicide by fentanyl. Homicide by fentanyl. The fentanyl, y'all, is the scourge of the earth. It's killing our kids. And I tighten the penalties for those that peddle the poison. I helped draft and pass illegal immigration task force, which the current Attorney General now is using, and using well. And David, unfortunately, your friend Joe Biden opened the door for 15 million illegal immigrants to come into this country, some of whom are violent criminals. I helped create the task force to track those people down. And I put a police officer in every single school in South Carolina. School resource officers save lives, and I helped put one in every single school in South Carolina. Those are the most vulnerable among us, and we owe it to them to protect them, especially while they're in school. As an entrepreneur and a businessman, I've started multiple successful companies right here in South Carolina. My first one was a biotech company based out of Charleston. We partnered with a medical university From day one, we faced oppressive federal regulatory regimes. Every single day, I fought the federal government. They weren't there as a stepping stone, they were there as a stumbling block. They weren't there to help grow wealth, they were there to destroy wealth. In 2006, I was blessed enough to get an offer on that company and sold it, started a second biotech company right in Charleston. From day one, the same thing, oppressive federal regulatory regime. It created real problems. And by 2006, I knew I had to go to law school. I had to have a lawyer in my pocket 24/7. I look back on that today and I think, how ridiculous is it that I had to have a lawyer just to live the American dream, just to be an entrepreneur? But that's what I did. I went to law school. And around 2008, I sold that second company. I didn't have a company coming out of law school, so I decided to open a practice. I hung a shingle. And my very first case, y'all, I remember it like it was yesterday, my very first case, a guy came to me, he was a contractor, he was a real estate agent, and he sat across from me and he said, Stephen, I'm building a house with a dock in Rosella. And DHEC came out and did an inspection, and they found a 50-year-old unpermitted bulkhead buried 3 feet in the mud, just some old wood. Had no bearing on anything. And they said, stop, cease and desist. And he said, for 9 months, I've been fighting the government, and they're breaking me. I'm going bankrupt. And I looked across the desk at somebody that looked just like me just a few years ago, fighting the government, and I got angry, y'all. I was so angry about that. Here's a gentleman that's just trying to live the American dream, and the government's beating him down. I dedicated myself at that point in time, I'm going to fight the government for the rest of my life. That's what my law practice is today. It is administrative law. I fight the government for a living. I sue the agency, state, and bureaucrats for a living, and I'm proud of that practice because I've helped companies and citizens right here in South Carolina live their dreams. Now, in conclusion, I'm reminded of when I was injured in North Africa when I was deployed. I fell in a bunker, I hyperextended my shoulder, I tore my pectoral and my labrum off of my shoulder. It was non-emergent, but it became emergent for me. I sat in the desert for 7 days on an airfield waiting for a C-17 to pick me up. It was 130 degrees, my boots melted. But I had time to think about what makes South Carolina special. And when that C-17 finally circled and it landed, 2 pilots got out and a nurse, and they came over and they started an IV in me because I was dehydrated. And I got to talking to the pilot, and the pilot said something, and I said, I recognize your accent. And he said, I'm from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I was 100 miles from Mogadishu. Y'all, I was in the middle of nowhere, and when they put me in the back of the plane, on that tail fin of the plane, some of you who are veterans know what I'm talking about, on the tail fin of that plane, y'all know what I saw? The Palmetto flag. He flew right out of Joint Base Charleston and picked me up in a place called Chibeli, North Africa, between Mogadishu and Djibouti. And I realized, y'all, we have great things here in South Carolina that make South Carolina great. The oceans all the way to the mountains and everything in between, but it's the people here, the freedom-loving people here in South Carolina that makes this place great. That makes this place something special. That makes this place worth fighting for. But you know what? You can't have freedom without law and order. I commit to you, if you will elect me as Attorney General, I will be for law and order. I will be for you. And I would be honored to have your vote on June 9th. Thank you very much.
This David? It was kind of a little ambiguous. That's right. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming out. My name is David Pascoe. I'm here with my better half, Christy, in the back. She serves as my driver, my bodyguard. Look, I did my Sicilian mother very proud, and I married a Sicilian woman. So if anybody approaches me too quickly tonight, be ready, okay? I have been a prosecutor for 33 years, and I'm running for Attorney General to make South Carolina safer and less corrupt. In those 33 years as being a prosecutor, I have put evil men on death row. I have fought corruption at every level of government, from the towns all the way up to the State House. I have led the statewide fights to make sure that liberals were not put on our bench. When a liberal pro-Planned Parenthood endorsed candidate like James Smith that my friend Stephen voted for ran for judge, I led the statewide effort to take him down, and he lost when he was unopposed. I was the first public official in South Carolina to call for judicial reform because I have seen the corruption that comes out of the way we elect our judges. And I started that fight 5 years ago. The third place I went on my tour of Republican Party and conservative groups, Ken, was right here in Horry County. That's where I met your chairman, Reese Boyd. I started the fight. In the words of Representative Joe White, my good friend, just last week, the reason judicial reform was on the 2024 Republican presidential ballot was because of David Pascoe. That was my fight in the Republican Party. I'm proud of the fights I've done for this state. I've got the battle scars to prove it. And I'm going to take that same fighting mentality and fight as your Attorney General. I'm going to fight to lower crime by having a policy that locks up repeat offenders out on bond, putting them back in jail where they need to be before their cases are called. I am going to fight illegal immigration by having a policy that when illegal immigrants get arrested for magistrate court offenses, they don't go back out in 2 hours. We're going to hold them longer to allow ICE time to determine whether they should be deported or not. I'm going to fight any woke state or federal government that tries to encroach on our rights as South Carolina citizens. And I'm going to fight like hell for the two things that I'm most passionate about. And that is protecting our children better and corruption. For protecting our children better, we are going to stop talking about needing a law to bring the death penalty for child rapists. What you don't know is we've already got the law on the books. When I'm your Attorney General, we are going to start seeking the death penalty for child rapists. Our child pornography internet crimes convictions are very, very poor right now. When I'm your Attorney General, I'm going to drastically increase those convictions by taking the money that we get spent in Columbia to prosecute those cases, give them to the local solicitors, and we will increase the conviction rates on those cases. I'm also going to start a statewide youth mentor program, a church diversion program, Pastor, that puts children in churches and steers them away from a path to crime before we lose them. And then there's corruption. I believe that an Attorney General's duty is to be where corruption needs an adversary. And I have seen it firsthand. When I was your special prosecutor for 5 years, prosecuting corrupt legislators, corruption runs deep in Columbia. I took down the 5 most powerful legislators, had them convicted and removed from office, but I am telling you, that just scratched the surface. I wanted to go further, but the Supreme Court told me I had to stop because they said I wasn't the Attorney General. So I'm running for Attorney General to finish the job that I started. Because we have bad corruption in South Carolina. Just last year, we had a state senator stand up, Tom Fernandez, and say that he was offered up to $100,000 in campaign money if he would vote against tort reform. And in South Carolina, nothing to look at here. Well, there is something to look at here. This is how I'm going to end the culture of corruption in South Carolina. We have lawyer legislators like Stephen up in Columbia making millions of dollars collectively off of Attorney General litigation retention agreements. Those are AG contracts where lawyer legislators make millions of dollars. On my first day in office, I will fire and ban every lawyer legislator from those AG contracts. Tom Fernandez's allegations on the State House floor, I've already said. I am going to investigate that on day one as Attorney General, and that's why the trial lawyers and the lawyer legislators are coming after me. I'm going to establish a public corruption unit to make sure that no public officials profit from their positions anymore. They are going to screen every campaign disclosure form to make sure public officials aren't treating their campaign accounts like piggy banks, because I've seen that rodeo before. They're going to look at everybody's statement of economic interest to make sure they're not making a profit off of their offices. And my public corruption unit is going to enforce the Freedom of Information Act laws and the Sunshine Laws of South Carolina like never before. The problem we have in South Carolina is toleration. We tolerate too much in South Carolina. Kathy and I had a great discussion the other day. She pointed it out. The vast majority of the people that go up to the State House, that work in county government, Kathy, they do it for the right reasons. You're right. The vast majority. But we have a handful that are bad actors. And they're creating an unlevel playing field. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a level playing field. I'm not going to tolerate it because I'm not going to worry about making friends as your Attorney General, as you can see. And this is the pledge that I want to give you, because I will never run for any other office but Attorney General. And when I'm done with being Attorney General, I'm not going into private practice. I am retiring. I've already promised that to my Sicilian bride. This is the pledge. When I'm your Attorney General, the days of the toleration will be over, because when we tolerate what we know to be wrong, we strike a blow against justice. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions tonight.
Thank you, David. And y'all please welcome our third candidate, Solicitor David Stumbo from Greenwood. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Reese. Appreciate y'all all being here tonight. My wife, Vanessa, of 26 and a half years. We're glad to be in Horry County tonight, as always. Thank you all for your hospitality. It's been great coming here so often over the last several months on the campaign trail. It's a pleasure to see every corner of South Carolina. One of the reasons I got, and the main reason I got into public service, y'all, is this, and we got some of these cards in the back of the room. I'm sure y'all have seen my family. Thankfully, my 4 kids all look like their mother and not their dad. That's the reason y'all got into public service. I want to leave South Carolina a better place for my kids and my grandkids, which hopefully we'll have soon, than I found it. And that's the bottom line. We have a great state in South Carolina. Stephen mentioned this earlier. There's a reason why we're the fastest growing state in America right now. We're doing something right. There's a lot we need to improve on, but we're doing something right here. And it's the reason why per capita we're the fastest growing state in America. But that is the reason I got into public service. I want to leave this state better than I found it. And getting into the law enforcement world, I went to law school to be a prosecutor, to work with law enforcement, to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, to work to keep our families safe. And y'all, I tried a case a little over a year ago that was my honor to represent a family and walk into a courtroom with them. Let me tell you a story about that case. A little girl named Madison Hines, 3 years old, was killed on a Sunday afternoon by an illegal immigrant. He blew through a 4-way stop, drove into her family van, and killed this little girl. And y'all, that illegal immigrant had been deported under the first Trump administration. Under the Biden open border policies, he came back. And he got in a car without a license, without a care in the world of how to drive that car, blew through that stop sign, and killed Madison. And her 7-year-old sister Kinsley held her hand while she passed away. Horrific and tragic. But representing families and walking into a courtroom to keep our families safe is the reason why I got into prosecution and law enforcement in the first place. I've been doing it for over 20 years. I started my career in the Attorney General's office fighting internet crimes against children and internet predators. And that was a very difficult job, but it was a rewarding job. And we sent a lot of predators to prison during that little under 3 years that I worked sexually violent predator and internet crimes against children cases. I worked for the solicitor in the 11th Circuit. I tried everything from murders to sexual assault to felony DUIs, property crimes, a little bit of everything in that office. I had the opportunity to try to a jury. And we worked with law enforcement arm in arm and got a lot of good results for the people of Lexington County during that time. Went back to the Attorney General's office in end of 2010. I was hired by our current Attorney General to be a supervisor in the statewide grand jury. We had a lot of public corruption cases. We had a lot of high-level drug trafficking cases. Worked those. Thought I'd be in that office for a number of years. because it was just a great, honorable job. I loved working in Columbia and doing that work, supervising lawyers. But I had 2 sheriffs and a police chief in the 8th Circuit come to me and say, David, we have a problem in the 8th Circuit. We have a solicitor who's not trying cases, who's not fighting for us. Our deputies and our officers are demoralized because of that. And they asked me to run for Attorney General, for Solicitor at that time, because their solicitor was not doing the job. And so I ran against an incumbent. Vanessa and I prayed about it extensively, just as we have this decision to run for AG. The Lord led us from Columbia. I had to leave the AG's office, went back to the 8th Circuit. Vanessa and I are both from those counties, Lawrence and Greenwood, and ran for Circuit Solicitor in 2012 and beat an incumbent. And the reason I beat that incumbent, y'all, is law enforcement wanted me in that job. And so we have been doing that for the last almost 14 years. I was just reelected in my 4th term as Circuit Solicitor, and it's been the honor of my career to serve in that role. I've been able to try every kind of case you can think of, lead young lawyers. Just had one of the guys I hired, he's not young anymore, elected Circuit Solicitor up in the 10th Circuit, Micah Black, worked for us. I hired him out of law school, and he worked for us for almost 12 years. So that's been a great honor. And it's, y'all, your Attorney General is your chief prosecutor for the state. And so you need an Attorney General that has been a prosecutor, has been in the trenches, working with law enforcement. I've been doing that for over 2 decades. There's a reason why 18 sheriffs across the state of South Carolina are endorsing our candidacy, and they've seen the work that I've done in the courtroom, the leadership that I've provided, in not just the 8th Circuit, but in the 2 terms at the Attorney General's office, my time in the 11th Circuit, providing across the state of South Carolina, fighting for our families. The second reason, y'all, is not only do you need a chief prosecutor who's been in the trenches prosecutor, you need an Attorney General who has been a lifetime conservative Republican. And I have been. I've been a conservative Republican, y'all, before I could vote. Supported basically through Ronald Reagan was one of my heroes as a child. But through that, my wife and I never supported a candidate that is not a strong conservative pro-life candidate. We've supported President Trump every time he's run and voted for him and our family. And y'all, that's another thing you need, because your Attorney General, y'all, is not just your chief prosecutor, it's the chief attorney for the state. So in public policy matters that everybody in this room, as conservative Republicans, care about, you need an AG that has been on the right side of those issues, fighting for the unborn. And I could maybe unpack that a little more later. Election integrity, medical freedom for our families, educational freedom for our parents, Second Amendment rights. You need an Attorney General who's been on the right side of those issues, critical policy issues in our state the entire time, and I have been. And Vanessa and I are proud Republicans. We work in the Republican Party. We're going to Greenwood Republican Party meetings early in our marriage as part of who we are. We are proudly pro-life, have worked in crisis pregnancy centers and volunteered our time and our resources. We are the only candidate in this race that's been a lifetime crime fighting prosecutor and a lifetime conservative Republican. I'd be honored to have y'all's support on June the 9th in the race to become the next Attorney General of South Carolina. Thank you.
And so we're excited to have him with us. Jack, come on up here and liven up the intellectual quotient on the stage. Banana Jack Murphy, y'all. Thank you.
Hello, gentlemen. I took the John Thune approach to getting here this evening. I took my time. Eased up in here. Didn't want to rush. Got any Andy Griffith show fans here? There's an episode where Mr. Tucker, the businessman from Charlotte, watch your hurry, slow down. That's one of them. Anyway, good to have you guys here. Hello, gentlemen. I've met a couple of you. Mr. Pascoe, good to see you. Yeah, apologize for the delay. I thought there for a second I was going to get a police escort. I saw a blue light in the rear view, but it wasn't for me. So, knock on wood there. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through some questions that have been provided. I might have snuck one of these green index cards in here just for fun. You gentlemen have 4 minutes, as we agreed to respond to the question, each of you. If any candidate's name is mentioned by another candidate, then they would have 2 minutes to respond. So we want to set the rules up, get everything straight, so Kathy and I are on the same page, or at least on the same card. You gentlemen ready?
Let's do it.
All right. If it wasn't a copyrighted phrase, I'd say let's get ready to rumble, but I'm not supposed to say that. All right, I think this has been addressed many times. Does the Attorney General retain lawyers to represent the state of South Carolina in mass tort and other litigation? And if so, are private lawyers being unfairly enriched at the expense of taxpayers? And if they are, what will your AG's office do if you're elected to ensure that all legal contracts entered into by the state, or at least through the AG's office, are fair and equitable to taxpayers and do not unduly enrich a very small and very select group of South Carolinians? Pascoe, since you asked me if who's going to start, we'll start with you. We'll work our way this way, okay?
That was a very long question. But here's the good news. It's a very short answer. Yes, it is inherently unfair how much money we have given to these law firms and lawyer legislators and what's called litigation retention agreements. The question is, yes, our AG's office does and has contracted out big civil cases. Like, y'all remember the opioid settlement? It was hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know why 390 million is in my head. Yeah, well, millions of those dollars went to law firms for doing almost nothing because the Attorney General's office did all the negotiating in the case. Great question. On the plutonium case out of Savannah, the Savannah River site case, one law firm who lost the case made $75 million. To this day, we do not know what the Willoughby law firm did for that money. When I am your Attorney General, I'm going to find out what the Willoughby law firm did with that money. Lawyer legislators, let's just name them. Let's stop playing the games. Like Myrtle Smith and Bruce Bannister are making millions of dollars off of this. You know, Myrtle Smith in 22 months made $1.3 million in litigation retention agreement money for doing practically nothing. Now, does that sound fair to anybody out there? That is why, when I'm Attorney General, I'm going to fire and I am going to ban. That is the first thing I'm going to do to send a message that we're going to end the culture of corruption in South Carolina. I'm firing and banning every lawyer legislator from litigation retention agreements. Because I have the power to hire, I have the power to fire. And we are going to start doing these litigation retention agreements in-house. Because that money does not belong to law firms. That money belongs to you, the people of South Carolina. This way? That is a real passionate issue of mine. Since I have a little bit more time, I'm going to say this. There's a group called Fact Check that's out there just spending hundreds of thousands of dollars against me. Guess who's paying for that? The lawyer legislators. It's the House caucus coming after me. So judge me by my enemies, friends. Judge me by my enemies.
One thing I agree wholeheartedly with, we need to develop a stronger in-house team of lawyers at the Attorney General's office, period, point blank. I have a plan on how to do that. Actually, I had lunch with a guy about a month ago who is from Greenwood, young guy, he's a good bit younger than me. But he has actually worked in a firm after he graduated from Yale Law School, a real smart guy. Went to Washington, worked for a firm there, working on a lot of civil cases, and working with attorneys general across the country. And one of the things he told me is he said, David, a lot of other states' AG's offices have a much more robust team of in-house lawyers handling this litigation. So it doesn't cost the state a third, retention agreement where they're getting a ton of millions and millions of dollars that are leaving the state treasury and going to these law firms. And so one of the things I would like to do is we need to start on day one enhancing that in-house team of lawyers. So we can handle a lot of the big mass litigation, tort litigation. If you have an agreement with a law firm, maybe for consultation, But we need to have a team of lawyers in-house that can walk into a courtroom and argue those cases and not rely on these big dollar DC firms and lawyer legislator run firms in South Carolina. So that would be my plan on day one, is to enhance our Solicitor General section and our civil divisions with competent civil litigators. So we're not having to pay out all these fees, attorney fees. The only time I think it would be appropriate to hire a firm that has a legislator in it is if they're the best firm to handle it. I mean, I think that's something we need to evaluate. I don't want to have a 100% rule against it, but I think we need to discourage it, quite honestly, because it has an appearance of impropriety. And so I would advocate only for a firm, or get to an agreement with a firm that had a sitting legislator in it if they are the best firm to get after more dollars for the state of South Carolina. But I want us to develop a team in that office that is competent to walk into a courtroom and argue cases from the district or circuit court level all the way up to the Supreme Court if necessary. And I'm going to do that on day one.
Thank you. I love this guy, but a lot of this is nonsense. I mean, let me just tell you the truth, because I've been there and I've seen it with my own two eyes, okay? When you're talking about not having outside lawyers, I want you to think about that for a second. A really highly qualified civil lawyer that has the ability to go to Washington, D.C. and argue a case, a $600 million case like the SRS case, by the way, doesn't take $200,000 for salary at the Attorney General's office. That just is not real, y'all. You can't attract $1 million a year lawyer to go work at the Attorney General's office. These outside legal requirements, these outside legal counsel contracts that he's talking about doing away with, they're necessary. Nobody out here, if you had a business, nobody out here would say, you know what, we're going to seek the lowest common denominator to do the work. What we seek is the best. South Carolina should do the same. If we're just saying this for political expedience, fine, okay, I get it. But y'all are smart enough to understand we have to have the best when it comes to representing the state of South Carolina. And you can't get the best at $200,000 a year. I'm sorry. You just can't do it. That's not the way it works. Yes, you can get really good criminal prosecutors in the criminal division at $200,000 a year. That's true, okay, because that's what these guys make. But you can't get $1 million a year civil lawyer at $200,000 a year at the Attorney General's office. All right, now he mentioned trial lawyers coming after him, so I'm going to dive into that a little bit. Again, y'all, nonsense, okay? This is the only guy on the stage that has $280,000 of his campaign finance funded by trial lawyers. Morgan & Morgan is his biggest contributor. Morgan & Morgan. Y'all, this is nonsense. And if we buy into it, shame on us. Shame on us.
Mr. Pascoe, you have 2 minutes to respond.
You're not going to like what I have to say. Shame on you. You know why he's in favor of giving lawyers money in these contracts? His biggest contributor, Randy Lowell, has given him probably over $30,000 by himself to his campaign account. You know why? Because it's not under Randy's name, it's under his LLC's name, like the Crazy Crab LLC. Do you know how much money Randy Lowell made, his law firms made, in these litigation retention agreements in the last 15 years? You ready for this number? $100 million. It is corruption. And in every single one of those cases, y'all, some kid out of law school could have handled them because there was no litigation. There was none. That SRS case, for example, they filed 2 motions lost, and Lindsey Graham negotiated the $75 million. They are not difficult cases to handle. They do not take, for the most part, expert law firms. That's why when I'm your Attorney General, we are going to find out, and this is what has him scared to death. We're going to get some disclosure and transparency on what they did for those hundreds of millions of dollars they made. And you know what we're going to find out? They did next to nothing. They're all up there. Every single one of those lawyer legislators are looking for ways to make money off of us. You want to declare war against me? It's on tonight, baby. Because I'm telling you, it's on tonight. They are corrupt. They are a cabal. All they do is they go up there and they think about ways to make money.
He mentioned me, so I think I should get an opportunity.
You have 2 minutes to respond.
Yeah, thank you very much. The reason that you want to open an investigation to find out what they did in order for the fees is because you've got no idea, David. You've got no idea what they did for the fees. I'm sorry, does he get to respond? We get to yell at each other?
One at a time, no yelling.
If they did nothing, I'm with you, okay? Because I'm the only one on this stage that's actually introduced legislation to stop what he's talking about, y'all. That's why this is nonsense. This is a bunch of talk coming from a guy that's got more funding from trial lawyers than anybody on this stage. Morgan & Morgan, $280,000. Look it up. Don't take my word for it.
Out of this race.
Don't take my word for it.
You're telling the truth.
$280,000 in trial lawyer money in this guy's campaign. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. $280,000. Y'all, this is fake. This is nonsense. Okay, from the very beginning, the Democrats have pushed this guy, and here we are again listening to how trial lawyers are the enemy and trial lawyers are the one funding his campaign. Don't fall for this nonsense, y'all.
All right, let's make a deal right
Give
now.
him the balance of the 1 minute that's left. so we
Let's
can
make
move
a
on.
deal right now. Let's shake hands on it. Whoever has gotten the most money from the trial lawyers has to drop out of the race.
Absolutely.
You're out. Yeah, you're out. You're out. Randy Lowell by himself has given him probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's given him $30,000. No, he's given you $30,000 alone in your campaign account, dude. He had a fundraiser at Burr Foreman. Do you know how much money Burr Foreman has made off of the state of South Carolina? Millions of dollars today. Today. He is a corrupt lawyer legislator, and that's why you're not winning this election.
We'll move on to the second question on the agenda. And we'll begin with Mr. Stumbo on this one.
We don't want to hear from David.
Yes, we do.
All right, here we go.
Ah, good. Get to talk again.
Quick time out. Don't y'all have 2 microphones up there?
We do. The one is really hot. Yeah, it was
Testing. Is it better now?
yeah, that one's kind of feedback. Yeah.
All right, second question. Doge, waste and fraud. So we've heard a lot about waste and fraud in the last couple of years. As AG, what would you do to eliminate waste in the AG's office and to eliminate waste and fraud in other areas of state government, including local government?
I can tell you this, and it's well documented. I can show you report after report after report from the South Carolina Prosecution Commission. My office in the 8th Circuit does more with less than any other circuit in the state. We are funded at the second lowest level of any circuit solicitor, and we have many more cases than a lot of circuits that have more money than we do. And so we have been very efficient with what we have. We get after it. I looked at the stats the other day. We moved and handled 3,000 more cases than a circuit that had more resources and more lawyers than we did. And I'm very proud of that. The reason for that 14 years ago is when I took office as 8th Circuit Solicitor, I stepped into an absolute train wreck. Bottom line, I ran against an incumbent and we won. And what was necessary for me and has been for the last 13 and a half, 14 years is leading from the front. I've been the most hands-on solicitor you'll ever find in the state of South Carolina. I still try a lot of our cases. First 2 years I was in office, I prepared 20 cases for jury trial, which is almost unheard of for a circuit solicitor. We took a lot of those to trial. Some of them pled on the day of trial, and we got results. And so, y'all, that is what it takes, is being efficient by leading from the front. And one of the things we're going to do, and I know I've heard a lot from several of the gubernatorial candidates about this, is to use AI. AI is a great tool to go through the state budget, to go through the agencies, and find areas where we're wasting money and we're not spending it right, and not spending it in the way that most effectively works for the taxpayers of South Carolina. And so the technology is there. We need to utilize it on the state level, all the way down to the local level. And I've heard very good plans from our governor's candidates about doing that. And so I will work with them as Attorney General. When we find waste, fraud, and abuse, we're going to deal with it. And so just like when I worked in the statewide grand jury years ago, we had a lot of local public corruption cases, and we worked those and we prosecuted them. We investigated many of them by SLED. And we work with those guys. You give law enforcement the tools they need. You give them the support that they need. And when you get a case filed from them, if there's evidence to prosecute, you prosecute it. You do it without theatrics, without drama, and you do the right thing. And so that's how we're going to handle the waste, fraud, and abuse issue. We hear the term Doge a lot. I think it's almost overused now. We need to just be looking at government and doing the right thing. Bottom line, I think the Elon Musk era of Doge is something we need to move. Ultimately, I think a lot of good was done on the federal level with that. We need to move on and just do the right thing for the people of South Carolina day in and day out. That's what I've done as the 8th Circuit Solicitor the past 14 years. It's what I plan to continue to do for you as your Attorney General. Thank you.
Mr. Pascoe, we're gonna let Mr. Goldfinch go
Okay.
into you. We're rotating around that way.
Thank you. I introduced the Doge SC bill. I drafted the bill, I wrote it, I introduced it. I was asked to be the floor leader on it. We passed it. If the question is, what would I do about Doge? I mean, I am the agency state guy, y'all. The agency state is the problem, really, with all of government. Bureaucrats are the problem. Now, you've got problems in the executive branch, you've got problems in the legislative branch. But if you ask what touches the everyday American, what touches the everyday South Carolinian, it's the agency state. And I always ask bureaucrats the same question. By the way, I fight the agency state in my law practice, that's what I do. And I fight them as a senator, that's what I do as well. And I always ask bureaucrats the same question, y'all, and here's the question. It's important. What is it that gave you the authority to ruin this person's life? Or what is it that gave you the authority to ruin this person's business? Because that's what they do. That's always what they do whenever you wind up in a conflict. They're there to ruin that person's life, to shut them down, to take away their income. And y'all know what the answer always is? 100% of the time. You know what the answer is? The bureaucrat says this: that's the way we've always done it. Y'all, that's the wrong answer. Let me tell you what the right answer is. The right answer is the law or regulation gave me authority to do that. Okay? One or the other, and most of the time the regulation doesn't comport with the law, so I'm going to beat you up on that too. But it's always the law or the regulation. Never, that's the way we've always done it. And that's the way we've always done it, is what they're using to ruin people's lives. That's unacceptable. As Attorney General, I will be the anti-agency guy. I know how to go to Washington, D.C. and fight this federal oppressive regulatory regime. I did it on the whale speed limits. Y'all may have seen that. I did it on the fishing regulations. Y'all may have seen that. I've done it on multiple scales at the state level and the federal level, and I'd be honored to do it as your next Attorney General as well.
That's a great question. Do you know what combats bureaucracy and spending? Transparency. And the Doge unit of the Attorney General's office under David Pascoe, as David Stumbo said, it's not going to be called Doge, it's going to be the Public Corruption Unit, the PCU, which is going to ensure that we don't have a problem like they had in Minneapolis with the Somali daycare centers. Because that was because of a lack of transparency. This is what I mean by that. I told you earlier, we are going to enforce the sunshine laws of South Carolina like never before, because I don't care about making friends at county councils or state government. So when a citizen or a watchdog group FOIAs information from a county council or a school board, and that school board or county council says, no, we're not turning it over, what can they do? They can go hire a lawyer and sue. Nobody can afford that on the front end. No, they will come to the Attorney General's office, and my Attorney General's office will sue on that citizen's behalf. I will get those documents, because we are going to have full transparency when I'm the Attorney General in South Carolina. And again, it's not going to be called Doge, it's going to be called the Public Corruption Unit in South Carolina. One more thing, since I have 1 minute, let me tell you this. How many times have y'all seen county councils and town councils go into executive session to talk about the budget? That's against the law. I will be sending members of the PCU, when they do that, when you alert me, and they will gently let those members know that when you go into executive session to discuss anything other than personal matters, you are subject to criminal liability. Thank you.
On to question 3. This is regarding term limits. We'll start with you, Mr. Goldfinch. Here's the question. Do you support term limits for the office of AG, for the governor's office, or other? And if you are elected as the next AG, would you limit yourself to a set number of terms?
Yes, I do. On both, well, I mean, the governor obviously does have term limits now. So I obviously support that. But yeah, I mean, term limits are a bad idea whose time has come, y'all. I mean, really, you have to, term limits are always the voters, sort of time to come out and vote and tell whether or not it's time for that particular politician or public servant to go home. But at some point in time, your utility begins to dwindle for the people, and certainly your utility for yourself begins to increase. And so yes, the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. And I have no desire to serve more than 2 terms in the Attorney General's office.
The answer to the question is absolutely yes. I support term limits. I will tell you and I will pledge that I am going to try to do this in 1 term. I really am. I would never serve more than 2 terms, but I'm going to do everything I can to get this state on the right track in 1 term in office. I've already promised my bride that I'm going to try to do it in 1 term because we are ready to retire. If for some reason I wasn't elected Attorney General, I'm going to retire in a couple of years. We are ready to retire. So I'm running for Attorney General for one reason, not to make friends. I'm running for Attorney General to start flipping some tables over and end the corruption in South Carolina.
I'll ditto the 2 terms for statewide elected officials. I think for some of the other ones, particularly local races, whether that's county council, sheriffs, coroners, sometimes you have people want to keep a sheriff or a coroner or a county councilman for a long time because they're very close to that person. So I would not want term limits locally, but I do believe for statewide office, there's no reason why we should have an attorney general that can serve for 20 years, but the governor can only serve for 2. I would advocate for any statewide constitutional office to mirror the governor, 2 terms. Same thing. I don't have any interest in running more than 2 terms as the next attorney general. On the federal level, obviously, that's not something we're going to be able to impact as the AG, but as a bully pulpit matter, I do think we need congressional term limits too. There's no reason why we need to have a congressman or a senator up there for 25, 30, 35, 40 years. That's ridiculous.
We'll start with you, Mr. Pascoe, and then work our way back around to Mr. Goldfinch. Mr. Stumbo, you'll be next in this order. What in your background and experience qualifies you most in comparison to your 2 opponents to serve as the next AG of South Carolina?
Well, as I've said, I've been a prosecutor for 33 years, 21 years as the elected solicitor for the 1st Judicial Circuit, which is Orangeburg County and Dorchester counties. In that time, I am the only person up here who's put people on death row. I sent a cop killer to the firing squad just last spring, Michael Mighty. I am the only person on the stage that has prosecuted corruption. I believe I am the only one, from everywhere from the town level all the way up to the state house. And again, what makes me uniquely qualified, and also let me say this, I've created programs that I'm very proud of, and I can't wait to bring as Attorney General. And Mr. Stumbo may have done some of these same programs, but for example, the Youth Mentor Program, which is the church diversion program, Pastor, that I mentioned earlier. That program won the best diversion program in the state of South Carolina for me in the 1st Circuit. And that's a program where when children are going down a path of crime, committing petty offenses, instead of putting them in DJJ, we assign them to churches. And they provide them with a mentor and structure in their lives. And it is the greatest diversion program we've ever had in the state of South Carolina. I think the reason we don't have it in more circuits, David, is because it doesn't make any money. So it's free. But the thing that really makes me uniquely qualified is the fact that I was a special prosecutor during the State House corruption probe from 2016 to 2021, where I convicted and removed from office as Speaker of the House, the President pro tem of the Senate, 2 majority leaders, and I sent the Chairman of the House Judiciary to prison. I also issued a state grand jury report that outlines the corruption in South Carolina. And I'm telling you, it is bipartisan, and it runs deep in South Carolina. I wanted to go further, but in 2021, our Supreme Court, who was elected by who? Legislators, told me that I had gone too far, and they said that I had to stop. And their exact words were, Pascoe, you weren't the Attorney General, and only the Attorney General should be able to go after these legislators. Well, Supreme Court, well, South Carolina House and Senate, I'm running for Attorney General to finish the job I started way back in 2021, and in 2016. And they're scared to death, and they should be. I think those are the things that make me uniquely qualified.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, oh, good. The main thing, y'all, is I'm the only guy on the stage that has done a couple of terms in the AG's office. First time I was there in law school. I know David did a little bit of time in PCR there. But I served as the Internet Crimes Against Children lead prosecutor early on. I did sexually violent predator cases and came back and supervised a unit there. But in law school, I worked with a guy named Bob Cook. He's still the Solicitor General there today. Worked on a religious liberty case, and the time I was there, where a Wiccan priestess, believe it or not, up in Great Falls, sued the state or the town of Great Falls because they were praying in Jesus' name. That was a very interesting case. I love working on First Amendment religious liberty cases, and you get a number of those in that office. So my time there has been, I think, very valuable. There are a ton of people at the AG's office that are supporting my candidacy and want me to be the next AG because they've worked with me. They've seen the work I've done. As the solicitor, I've been involved in 4 capital cases. Currently, we have one that's set to go to trial in between the primary and the general election this year. It's scheduled for late September, early October in Greenwood. I can't talk about the details of that case because it's pending. But we are seeking the death penalty in that case, and I worked on 3 others since I've been elected in 2012. In addition to the tough on crime approach we've taken in our circuit, y'all, and I've tried many of those dozens of murder cases and sexual assault cases myself, we've had diversion programs we've created without money. And David mentioned this a second ago, that the diversion programs that don't make money. Well, we started a veterans treatment court in our circuit without anything. I talked to the VA guys and they said, hey, we need a veterans court because we have all these guys coming out of war zones that are substance abuse addicted and maybe getting a DUI or drug possession. And they served our country honorably. And we need a path to them back to good citizenship and not carrying criminal records. So we started a veterans treatment court in our circuit with no funding. And we just doubled up jobs, basically, and said, we're going to do this because it's the right thing to do and partner with the VA to do it. Fortunately now, the state of South Carolina's Veterans Affairs Office has, we've gotten some grant money to help us run that program, but it's still not enough. And we've done that in my circuit from the beginning because diversion programs that help the deserving people, not the violent criminals, but like David was talking about, we had a juvenile arbitration program, but we enhanced that just this month with a mentorship component in partnership with our family court. So we can keep these young guys from becoming the next shooters. Because right now, you know what's happening, y'all? The gang members are putting guns in the hands of the 16 and 17-year-olds because they know they're going to go to family court, which is another thing we need to fix in the legislature with rolling back to raise the age. That was a huge disaster that we passed 7 or 8 years ago, lowering the age. We need to go back to where violent crimes are going directly to adult court, not being stuck in family court where we have to waive it up. So I've testified in the Senate a couple weeks ago about the bill to just do just that. So we need to do that, y'all, but we also need to mentor these young guys that are 13, 14, 15 that are getting in trouble and intersecting with the juvenile court system, partnering up with pastors, youth group leaders, coaches, and we're partnering with everybody in the community in Greenwood right now to do just that thing. And so I'd love to implement that program on the statewide level as well. Thank you.
Quick correction, because I know you didn't mean this. If I had done PCRs, I would have shot myself in the foot, okay? And you would have too. I did prosecute 1 year at the AG's office and tried 4 cases as a prosecutor in the AG's office.
Mr. Goldfinch, 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Thank you. I think to answer the question, what makes me most qualified, I think it's important to let everybody know, what does the AG's office actually do? Most people think it's just a giant criminal division. It's not. Now, there is a criminal division. That's the first division. There's 3, the easiest way to think about what the AG's office is, there's 3 divisions. The one, criminal division. They do what you think it does. They prosecute major crimes, conflicts of interest with the solicitor's offices. We will all do that, y'all. I may not like this man's politics in some cases, or his past politics, but he's going to prosecute crime. We're all going to prosecute corruption. There's 40 plus lawyers at the Attorney General's office that are dedicated to prosecuting crime. You know, think about the last time you saw the AG actually prosecuting a case. When was that? I mean, I can think of once in the last 15 years. We'll all prosecute crime. The second division, the civil and the administrative division, this is where I think you need to pay attention. God forbid we are to wind up with a Gavin Newsom or a Kamala Harris in 2028. And y'all, that could happen. God forbid that happens. You have to have an attorney general that knows what he or she's doing, he, in this case, is doing to be able to go to Washington, D.C. and to fight that federal oppressive regime. Because they're coming after us in South Carolina. If we wind up with a Democrat administration in 2028, they're coming after us. Y'all, I'm the only one on this stage that's actually practiced in that arena and has fought the government. All right, the third division is what we call the legislative and the opinions division. It's a super important division. They interact with the General Assembly. They tell the General Assembly, look, y'all are considering this bill. It's a very important bill for criminal justice, for instance, or maybe in the civil and the administrative division. Maybe this is going to be difficult for the Attorney General to defend all the way up to the Supreme Court. Maybe there needs to be an and where there's an or. It's something as simple as that. But the Attorney General's office has to interact with the General Assembly on a regular basis about important pieces of legislation. If you're going to burn the entire place down and throw the Speaker of the House or attempt to throw the Speaker of the House in jail for something I haven't heard any valid reason to do that. If you're going to do that, or at least talk about it on the campaign trail, you're going to have a real hard time working with the General Assembly to get good bills passed, y'all. Okay, I want you to think about how important this is. This is not just some fly-by-night operation. This is the Attorney General's office of South Carolina, and qualifications matter. Well-roundedness matters, and I've done all of these things. So, thank you very much.
Not all corruption is criminal. I never said that I was going to put Merle Smith in prison. He got his money legally, unfortunately. That's why we have a culture of corruption in South Carolina that needs to change. When I'm the Attorney General, he will not be making $1.2 or $1.3 million in litigation retention agreements over the course of 22 months anymore. This is how much money he's going to make when I'm the Attorney General. Nothing.
We'll begin with Mr. Stumbo on this one. In what ways does the Office of Attorney General impact the lives of everyday South Carolinians on a day-to-day basis? And if elected as the next AG, what will your office do each day? And what will you do to improve the lives of the people that elect you?
Well, I agree with one thing I heard earlier about protecting our kids. And that's not only in the criminal division and what we do through internet crimes against children, prosecuting predators of kids that want to sexually exploit them, and make sure people that are possessing, even and trading and producing these child sex abuse images, every single one of them, y'all needs to go to prison immediately. We don't need any more of those cases where we're seeing these suspended sentences for child sex abuse material cases. And as your AG, I've been in the trenches as the Internet Crimes Against Children prosecutor, and we didn't see people walking out the door then, period. And we're not going to see it in the future. So we're going to protect our kids, not just in this criminal division though, but the AG can affect child protection even in the civil arena, in the public policy arena. For example, our state joined a lawsuit against Roblox. A lot of the Republican AGs came after Roblox, which is a platform that a lot of your kids and grandkids play. that was essentially not putting safeguards in place and allowing sexual predators to use roadblocks to get to kids. Can you believe that? That this company's making billions of dollars? And so the state AGs, and this is one way that the AGs can work together, and you're coming after a multi-billion-dollar corporation civilly, you probably shouldn't be doing it alone as a state. And so you can lock arms with the other AGs to protect our kids. And so that's another way we can protect our children and our families. But overall, we need positive, strong leadership in Columbia, y'all. We need people that have biblical worldviews, that live their lives according to the principles that made this country great, folks. And so that is, as your leader, as the Attorney General, kind of like in the governor's seat, you have a bully pulpit to really move public policy in the right direction and make sure that as our state grows, we're growing responsibly and we're protecting our families and we're improving our infrastructure. And all of those things that the AG can partner with our governor or whoever our governor, whichever governor is elected. You need an AG that's going to be working strongly with the governor and with passing good laws in the General Assembly and being a bully pulpit advocate for that. And so that's the way the AG can really affect on multiple levels the lives of everyday South Carolinians.
Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you very much. How does the AG's office touch everyday lives of South Carolinians? 3 ways, and certainly more than that, but 3 that come to mind immediately. Number 1, the Immigration Task Force. Y'all, 15 million illegal immigrants entered during Joe Biden's tenure. Y'all, that is unacceptable. I helped craft, fund, and organize the Immigration Task Force in the AG's office. Okay, that is something that touches every single one of our lives, from construction workers to hotel workers to, God forbid, the case where the illegal immigrant, which I know about, and well, everybody here has heard, the illegal immigrant hits somebody and kills them. Shouldn't have been here in the first place. It touches people's lives every single day. The second one, Internet Crimes Against Kids. We call it the ICAC program, right? Absolutely terrible cases. Some of the worst you can ever imagine, worse than murder. And I've prosecuted them all, worse than murder. As a military prosecutor, I've prosecuted these crimes, and I can tell you unequivocally, they're horrendous, and they touch everyday people's lives. And this is something that I was proud to support. I'm unhappy that we even have to have it. It's disgusting. But I'm proud to have supported it and funded it, and I continue to support that and fund that. I will continue to support that and fund that as the AG's office. It's important to victims. And the third thing, getting the federal government off of our backs, y'all. This is something that the AG candidates here just don't talk about enough. And quite frankly, it's because they have no experience in these matters. I am the only one that has fought the federal government and the state government on behalf of the people of South Carolina. I fight the agency state. The agency state touches every single one of your lives and makes your life difficult, especially if you're a business owner. I know how to fight the agency state, and I will fight it for you if I'm the next Attorney General. Thank you.
This is going to be very easy to answer, but let me start by telling you this. In my opinion, the most important job on the ballot and the most powerful position on the ballot is the Attorney General. And I'm going to come back to that at the end of when I answer this. But I'm going to have a quick answer. I agree with everything that David Stumbo said. Everything that he said. I agree with almost everything that Stephen Goldfinch said. And I'll tell you, for example, David is right. In 2028, there is a real possibility that there's going to be a Democrat in office. And Stephen is right. They will come after South Carolina. And the Attorney General is the front line of defense against that. So we have to have a fighter to make sure that they're going to file actions against the federal government. And it's not just federal, Stephen, and you'll agree with this. Sometimes it's states. And again, we need a fighter in the Attorney General's office to fight for South Carolina as the first line of defense against those woke agendas. I want to get back to the Attorney General being the most powerful position in the state. I'm going to give you an example. We talked a lot about that Savannah Riverside case where $75 million went to a law firm. Whether you're in favor of it or not, I'll tell you a fact. Only 2 public officials in the state of South Carolina called it out. One of them was me. I was the first. I did an open letter calling it out. I said it was cronyism. I said it was unethical and it was wrong and give that money back to the people of South Carolina. Well, I was just a solicitor. Nobody has to listen to me. The other elected official was the governor. Governor McMaster called it out. He said it was wrong. He also said that the deal was horrible and that South Carolina should not enter that deal. The governor, the attorney general, got to say, I don't care. And we entered that deal, and that $75 million went to that law firm, and there was nothing the governor could do. Again, I'm just getting back to my point. The most powerful position on the ballot is the attorney general, because the attorney general got to even say no to the governor. So let's keep that in mind when we're electing our next attorney general, that we need a fighter in that position. Thank you.
Mr. Goldfinch, you'll start this one off. We've touched on this on a couple of occasions. We all know the story of Logan Frederico, young lady that was tragically killed by a violent career fellow. We see this in other states. It's almost a weekly occurrence. Who shouldn't have been out on the streets. Did the system fail, Federico? And if it did, what would you do as AG to prevent similar tragedies in the future?
Yeah, the system failed, Logan, absolutely. There's lots of things that can be done to address these issues. Number one, I do think we need to engage in judicial reform in South Carolina. I'm actually the only one on the stage that has done judicial reform. I have helped draft and pass 2 different judicial reform measures, including the one I just helped draft, the latest judicial reform measure. So do I think that we need to go to popular election? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is the worst idea we could possibly do, y'all. Can you imagine the white-collar criminal? Who's the perfect person to extract campaign finance from, by the way, if you just stolen $1 million from a company? That's the perfect guy to get your campaign finance from as a judge. Can you imagine, you think the Morgan & Morgan billboards are disgusting? Can you imagine Judge Smith, the drug dealer on this corner of the street? That's the perfect guy to get $5,000 from when he ends up right in front of you. We cannot go to popular elections. The other system is gubernatorial appointments. I'll ask all of you. All of you know probably who you're approximately voting for in the governor's race, I would say. Y'all are a smart, educated group. I bet you know exactly who you're not voting for. You got somebody in mind? All right, you got somebody in mind. I see a lot of yeses. You okay with that person? If your person loses, you okay with that person you're absolutely not voting for, picking the judges in South Carolina? Heck no. Heck no. So the only other option is the third option. That is the only other option. Those are the 3 options. The third option is the governor appoints. This is the better option. The governor appoints members to a JMSC, a screening committee, and then the Senate, we can approximately mirror the federal system. The governor nominates and the Senate confirms. Is basically where we need to get in South Carolina. So I think judicial reform. I also think the Attorney General's office can hold solicitors that don't do their job accountable. Now, you can squabble about whether or not this was the situation in Logan Federico's case. But y'all, there are many examples of solicitors across this state that just will not prosecute crime. I can give you multiple examples of this, actually. I've got paperwork from the Supreme Court here that says in the First Circuit, this man right here, he has 700 cases that are indicted and unindicted, 4 years old and older. This man over here to my left, to my far left, 750 cases. Y'all, these are some of the smallest counties in South Carolina. These are cases that are 4 years old and older. You know what happens when a case gets 4 years old? It gets thrown out because the witnesses go away or die. The evidence gets stale, and you re-victimize the victim over and over again. Now, the inverse of that, the contrary of that, is Jimmy Richardson right here in one of the busiest counties in the state, with 20 million people coming here by car every year, has approximately 300, half of what these gentlemen have, 4-plus-year-old cases. How is that even possible? The answer is, some solicitors just don't do their job the way they should. The criminals are getting the opportunity to re-victimize their victims. And that is really unfortunate, y'all. That is really unfortunate. Now, I'll tell you, at the end of the day, we're all going to prosecute crime. I told you that. We're all going to do the job on corruption and prosecute crime. But what is it about our backgrounds that make you comfortable? What is it about our backgrounds that make you comfortable with AG? And I need you to look across the desk here and take a look at every single one of these gentlemen and say, who's got the most experience? Who's got the most qualifications to do this job and to do it well? And I hope you come to the same conclusion that I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As to the Logan Federico case, not to talk about the details of it, but the lead prosecutor for that case right now is a guy named Dale Scott. Dale Scott was my deputy solicitor in the 8th Circuit for 8 years before he moved where he lives in Columbia to be their lead murder prosecutor. And I can tell you this, unequivocally, one of the best trial prosecutors in the entire state of South Carolina, because he tried cases with me and I've seen it. So that case is in good hands. I don't know if Solicitor Gibson's going to seek the death penalty or not. I would if it were in my circuit because it's a horrific case. But that being said, it is in good hands with Dale Scott right now. Two things that I think we need serious look at. We talked about judicial reform. We need serious changes in the way we elect judges, not nibbling around the edges. Y'all, the judicial reform bills that have come out still have our candidates going and begging for votes at the General Assembly to House members and senators. That needs to stop. We don't need judicial candidates having to beg for votes. And the only way we stop that is we put a constitutional amendment on the ballot, we eliminate the JMSC, which is not doing the job that it was set to do, and we go to a federal model. We go to where the governor appoints. Y'all, and look, you may not like the governor that gets elected, but they're accountable to the people every 4 years. And just like in the presidential races, what is the big issue that we look at? Who are they going to appoint to the Supreme Court? That's a major issue in who we elect to be president. It should be a major issue in who we elect to our governor's seat in South Carolina. What kind of judges are they going to appoint? Truth in sentencing. Duffy Stone and I, Duffy's their 14th Circuit solicitor, good friend of Solicitor Pascoe and I. The legislature tried sentencing reform back in 2018, 2019. They wanted to eliminate all the mandatory minimums. It was absurd. And make our state less safe. So what we proposed counter to that, and unfortunately it fell on deaf ears and went nowhere, is actually have a truth in sentencing law passed in South Carolina. There's only a handful of crimes that we have no parole on right now. The other ones, y'all, I can't even tell you how the Department of Corrections calculates the max out dates. That should not be the case. The judge should be able to give a sentencing range to the defendant, and everybody in the courtroom hears it before they leave. If you're a model inmate, you get this amount of time. If you don't behave, you're going to be in there for the max that I'm giving you. And then there's no mystery to it. We proposed that. I remember Duffy and I talking to a House subcommittee about that. They said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It went nowhere. We need to start doing productive things like that in the General Assembly, y'all. Just to address my good friend Senator Goldfinch on this, the backlogs we have of 4-year cases or older in my circuit, I can tell you are minor. There are cases where people are out on bond. We're trying to get them back into court with bench warrants. In my circuit today, I'm over 4 counties. We only have 57 pending murder warrants in the entire 8th Circuit. And that's 4 counties, y'all. And the reason for that is we get after them. We don't have cases. The only cases I have that are murder cases that are old right now, and none of them are 4 years or older, but the only one that's over 3 years is one we're seeking the death penalty on. And it's not even 3 years old yet. And we're getting those cases done. So that is it's misrepresenting the facts there to say that we are not prosecuting serious cases in our circuit. And we have backlogs, certainly. And let me tell y'all, I have 15 lawyers to handle 8,000 to 9,000 cases a year coming in the door. Y'all do the math of how many cases that is per prosecutor. But I can tell you this, we don't have backlogs of murder cases and violent crimes in our circuit, period. It's not a statement of fact, an honest statement of fact to say that we do.
Imagine that Stephen Goldfinch was dishonest about something. I'm shocked. Let's talk about Logan Federico first, because our state failed Logan Federico. And one thing that wasn't mentioned, and I know not your fault, because you'll agree with me on this. The real problem, we need to get into the 20th century in South Carolina and start taking fingerprints after the guilty plea and after the convictions, don't we? Because that was the problem in Federico. They screwed up in the system because his rap sheet, the defendant's rap sheet, didn't have all his crimes on it for the judge and the prosecutor to take into consideration. We failed Logan Federico. We failed her family. I talked to Stephen just the other day. He's a Philadelphia paisan of mine and a good friend, and I told him again on the phone, every time we talk, I talk to Stephen Federico, I tell him, you are a hero because you're a voice of thousands of people in South Carolina. Now, let's talk about the numbers that Mr. Goldfinch brought up. These right here, I don't believe them because I know they're not true. I was looking at the numbers the other day. We've moved 6 murder convictions, by the way, just in the last month in the First Circuit. So these are trash. And like Mr. Stumbo said, most of the old cases are not murders and violent crimes. But more importantly, Stephen, I don't need to be lectured by somebody that I've tried and gotten convictions on in 1 week. I have convicted more people in 1 week than you have in your entire career. Because I know you haven't tried a thing. You're a joke. To be lectured by someone who's never put somebody on death row, to be lectured from someone who's never tried a murder case or a rape case like myself and David Stumbo, to be lectured by somebody who's never had to look victims in the eye like David Stumbo and myself and go to war for them, I don't pay any attention to you, especially by somebody who lies by saying they're not bought and sold for by the trial lawyers, because you are. Y'all see those Laura Loomer attacks on David Pascoe? That's Goldfinch's buddies. That's Peter Protopappas. That's Chris Slick. That's Walter Wetzel. That's Kenny Berger. That's Robert Goings. Should we keep going or are you going to stop? Keep going. Okay. He is bought and sold for by the trial lawyers. You know why I'm the only one up here that said that I will investigate what Tom Fernandez said about illegal lobbying, possibly by trial lawyers? Because he's in bed with them. He ain't going to touch him when he's your attorney general. So keep that in mind.
You have 2 minutes to respond.
Just say it for me. The Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is a liar. Go ahead, because this is the paper right here. I'll leave 6 copies at the front of the room for everybody to take a look at, and you can read them. They're right here. It's got on the top of it the South Carolina Supreme Court. Ladies and gentlemen, this came from the Supreme Court Court Administration. I'll read you the numbers. First Circuit, non-indicted and indicted, felonies, 311 plus 344. Maybe somebody can do the math for me. That's about 650, okay? In the 8th Circuit, 409 and 344. That's about 750 cases. In the 15th Circuit, that's here in Horry and Georgetown County, the busiest county in South Carolina, with 20 million people coming here by car every year, and criminals running rampant in Myrtle Beach, by the way. Okay? So you know the police are doing their job. Sheriff Thompson's doing his job. Jimmy Richardson's got half. The solicitor here has got half what these guys do in Orangeburg and Lawrence. Why is that? And you call the Chief Justice a liar if you want. That's fine. It's right here, y'all. I'll leave it for you. Okay? You can spin this however you want to. The police are doing their job in South Carolina, but some of the prosecutors are not.
Mr. Stumbo, you have 2 minutes.
I don't see anywhere in these numbers here, and I don't dispute court administration's numbers, even though I will tell you, we have had situations where we've audited our numbers in the past, and they have been drastically off from court administration because they're relying on the clerks of court. And sometimes in these small counties, the clerks of court aren't entering dispositions. So they aren't the most accurate number. But that being said, I don't see anywhere on this page where it says these numbers are felony convictions. I don't know if that's what he asked for or not. It just says non-indicted general sessions cases. Those go all the way down to cases that carry over 30 days. Anything that carries over 30 days, y'all, basically, if it's a night hunting and it carries 60 days, that's a general sessions offense. It's not a felony. So to try to say that these numbers are what we're carrying with serious violent crimes just is not, it's not an accurate picture. Not at all. Like I said, I had my guys run the numbers today in the 8th Circuit. 57 pending murders for the entire 4-county circuit. And then we're getting them done, and none of them are over 4 years old. And so what we're looking at here is misdemeanors where somebody got bonded out on a minor larceny case or a DUI second and hit the wind. We can't find them. We can't get them back into court. And that's just the reality, y'all. We go eventually get a bench warrant and maybe get them back, maybe we don't. But to say that these numbers are somehow violent people running around the streets that aren't being prosecuted just isn't accurate. So, period.
All right, gentlemen. We'll go with the campaign questions. Each candidate submitted a question for the other candidate. So we'll start with Mr. Stumbo's question.
Jack, you might want to remind the candidates just 3 minutes, and then once the other two or the other one responds, the candidate that asked the question will have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Could you say that again? We were talking.
We agree on rules for each candidate who's been asked a question will have 3 minutes to respond, and then the candidate who asked the question will have 2 minutes to follow up with a report, if you want.
I do have a question submitted by your campaign. If you'd like to take a look at it. Yes. Yes. No, this is from the Pascoe campaign, so you're aware of that. You'll see. Okay.
If I've got one, I'll take a look at it. Oh, I don't have one.
You want to chop one down? I bet you can come up with something. Okay. Oh, we're not going to do closing yet. Oh, no. The gentlemen have all agreed that they may not want to do these. If that's fine with you, we'll get to the people's questions.
Y'all made that easy.
Made it real easy.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Man, I'm glad we can all agree on something like that.
It's a 4-hour drive home.
Yeah, we do want to get everybody out by 8 o'clock.
And some of the questions that y'all submitted, y'all have addressed, so yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We'll start with you, my friend. Who on stage supports the MAGA Republican agenda?
This one I'll be quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to answer for everybody, but I guarantee you everybody on this stage is going to say me. So, yes, I do. I think that's the hot one. No, wait, that one back.
Can you hear me? Is this the hot one or is this a good one? This is good. Absolutely. In fact, when I was a Democrat, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars against me on digital, mail, and text messages calling Pascoe the MAGA Democrat. Because that's what I was. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we got them, like I said, so yeah, absolutely.
Yes, we will 100% stand with the president, his America First law and order agenda. He needs a partner in the Attorney General's office that's going to do that on immigration and other issues of violent crime, backing our police officers so we don't have what happened in Minnesota and the chaos that ensued there because of weak leadership, weak Democratic leadership. And so, yes, we 100% the president would have a partner in David Stumbo. If I'm your next Attorney General, look forward to carrying through with his America First agenda. Thank you.
Hey, hold on to that mic, Mr. Stumbo. Hold on. We'll come back this way and that'll make it easy on us. Will you denounce Sharia law from operating and controlling citizens in South Carolina?
100%. Anybody from any religious affiliation can move to the United States and move to South Carolina and practice their religion. But they will stand and be under the United States Constitution, the South Carolina Constitution. And any law that contradicts our Constitution, like Sharia law, and there are a number of areas where in these communities, if they're imposing Sharia law, you think women are safe? You think the kids are safe from pedophiles? They're not. And so Sharia law, 100%, we need to go into these communities if they are using the excuse to abuse the innocent, that they're under Sharia law. No, they're not. They can be investigated and prosecuted under South Carolina and the United States laws for abusing women and children. Thank you.
100% agree with David Stumbo. You have the right to religion, freedom of religion. but it has to be in accordance with both constitutions and South Carolina law. You harm a child, you rape a child, you're going to go to prison in South Carolina. So that's an easy question to answer, 100%.
Y'all, I've actually been deployed with the military to a place that is governed by Sharia law, and let me tell you something, it's not something that we should allow not even an inch, not a quarter of an inch. This is the worst of the worst people you can imagine. And I don't even, I hate to even get into some of the things that I've seen some of these guys do. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not something that I don't think anybody in this room, including the gentleman on this stage, would stand for that. And if you've seen some of the things that I've seen overseas, you would understand why.
All right, we'll start with you on this one, Mr. Pascoe. What is your specific plan to leverage the AG's office to combat the rise of synthetic opioids, and how will you work with law enforcement to address the backlog of criminal cases in state courts?
Let's start with the last one, and we'll work our way up. With regards to the backlog, after COVID, statewide, we had a horrible backlog, as you can imagine, throughout the state. But there is some good news. And I'm going to pat the legislature on the back, including Myrtle Smith. Look, you do bad, I go after you. You do good, I pat you on the back. Thanks to Myrtle Smith and the House and the legislature, the solicitor's offices, like myself and Mr. Stumbo's, we now have about twice the number of prosecutors that we had 4 years ago. Because the state realized that we didn't have enough boots on the ground to prosecute cases. So the backlog in South Carolina, which was horrible in 2022 and 2023, has gotten better every single year. And I promise you that by the next year, 18 months, we will have almost no backlog in the state of South Carolina. It's going to be much better because, again, the legislature not only has given solicitors more funding, but public defenders as well. We're able to move more cases. With regards to just the drug issue in general, I mean, it's horrible out there. Fentanyl, heroin, everything. One thing that I want to start doing is I'm going to allow the solicitors as Attorney General to start using the state grand jury much, much more often. And I know a lot of solicitors that want to do that. And so by using the state grand jury to go after drugs, you're not going after the street level people. You're going to be going after the dealers. You're going to go after the top. And that's what we're going to start doing in South Carolina as your Attorney General. We're going to let the solicitors use the state grand jury to go after drug dealers and start taking them down for substantial sentences of anywhere from 25 to 30 years if they have a prior record, maybe up to life. That's what we're going to do in South Carolina.
I agree with utilizing the state grand jury much more than we're doing now, particularly in multi-county drug cases. That's one of the jurisdictional areas that you can use the state grand jury. I know a lot of solicitors have had experience in the state grand jury. I prosecuted statewide grand jury cases. Solicitor Pascoe has, several others. We need to use the statewide grand jury to attack not just the drug problem, which is massive, y'all. One of the things we did in my circuit, we just got after the fentanyl issue. We saw that in the streets of Greenwood, what we were hearing from our federal, state, and local partners is that a lot of the pill presses were coming to Greenwood because it was off the beaten path. They were hiding in these little houses pressing these blue fentanyl pills. And so we partnered with the DEA, SLED, and my local agencies in Greenwood, and we started attacking the problem. And the same fentanyl pill that you could buy on the streets 3 years ago for $2 a pill might kill you, and we saw a lot of overdose deaths, today is over 5 times that much, is what my narcotics guys are telling me. And why? Because we started arresting these guys that were producing it. The Mexican cartels were bringing this stuff across the border during the Biden years. It was being pressed locally in these little stash houses. We started finding them and taking them out. And these guys started going away for 25-year mandatory minimum sentences for producing fentanyl that was killing people. So I want to do what we did in the 8th Circuit on the statewide level, obviously use the statewide grand jury to do that. The backlog issue, y'all, I can point to when it really took off in South Carolina. It was 2020 and 2021. My docket in the 8th Circuit went from 6,900 cases, pending warrants, and that's all kinds of crimes, and that was as low as it had been in years in the 8th Circuit. It went from 6,900 warrants total to over 12,000 in less than 18 months. You know why that happened? Because the Chief Justice of the South Carolina Supreme Court shut down court during COVID. And it was ridiculous. We couldn't do our jobs. And so one of the things we did, we tried the first jury trial in the 8th Circuit coming out of the COVID shutdowns. We was in Lawrence County. You can look it up, State versus Latavius Elmore. We convicted a murderer in Lawrence and he got 50 years. And we did everything we could to comply with the Supreme Court's directives, to make sure everybody had masks and we're 8 feet apart, and all the things that we look at back at now and know were probably unnecessary, right? But we did what we needed to do in the 8th Circuit, but the backlog exploded. We have been whittling away that backlog one chunk at a time over the past 4 or 5 years, and we're now under 10,000 warrants again. We're going to get it down to where we had it pre-COVID, and we're just doing it with more people. Again, I applaud the General Assembly for giving us more funding so we can hire a few more lawyers. That was critical in my circuit as well. But thank you all. Look forward to continuing to work on that backlog.
Because I'm not, you may have tried the first one. I thought I tried the first one after COVID. I'll tell you why. I think I'm the only one on this stage that was criticized by the national media and the local media. You can go Google it. Google Pascoe trial COVID. I tried a murder case right after we were able to try it. A couple people got a cold. But guess what? We got a murder conviction. So I didn't care about that criticism by the national media. Thanks. Okay. You might have done the first. I did the second one. Yeah, I'll give you the first one. I did the second one. Okay.
Mr. Goldfinch, the microphone is yours.
Thank you very much. Opioids, fentanyl, scourge of the earth, y'all. They're killing our kids, but let me tell you who else they're killing. They're killing our veterans at an alarming rate. Our veteran suicide amount is out of the roof. It's terrible, y'all. It's terrible. A lot of our veterans oftentimes self-medicate with these things, and sometimes they over-self-medicate, and that winds up in a terrible tragedy. What I have been working on diligently with the Chief Justice, Justice Kittredge, who does a great job, by the way, and General Livingston. General Livingston's the Medal of Honor recipient, who y'all may be familiar with, who's endorsed me in my campaign. We've been working on expanding the veterans courts across South Carolina, and under my leadership as Attorney General, that will be in every single county in South Carolina. Veterans courts are a super important tool that prosecutors can use, the Attorney General's office can use, that they can use in order to divert these veterans who are, most of them have either mental health issues and or addiction issues, and to divert them out of the criminal system and to get them the help that they need. That is absolutely something that we have to get diligent about, that we have to fund, and we have to fund it at a level that is really respectful of those men and women who have given everything for this country. As far as the backlog goes, I know we have fought over that ad nauseum, but y'all, let me just say this, okay? The backlog is real. Some solicitors do it better than others, and they can fight whether or not they do it better than others or not, okay? You can read the data and believe for yourself or not. But at the end of the day, some solicitors, like our solicitor, Jimmy Richardson, has figured out how to do it prosecute cases at double the rate that these guys have. So somebody is doing it better. Why? Why? You need to ask yourself that question. The answer to this question about backlogs is really an existential question for the court system and for our defendants and for our judicial system. And you cannot continue to re-victimize victims by having 4- and 5-year cases that end up back on the street. In Orangeburg alone, 41 pending murders over 4 years old. 41, y'all. In Orangeburg alone, one of the smallest populous counties in the state. It's just not, it's not good. It's not sufficient. We shouldn't allow it to happen.
Let me tell you what re-victimizes victims. Let me tell you what re-victimizes victims. When scumbag lawyer legislators get continuances in courts across this state. That's what re-victimizes victims. Let me tell you something else that re-victimizes victims. When judges call me up and tell me that your friends, lawyer legislators, threaten them that if they don't continue their cases, they won't make it out of JMSC. You're part of that corrupt cabal, my friend. And that's why I'm going to make sure you're not Attorney General, because the 4 scariest words in the English language are Attorney General Stephen Goldfinch.
Just to fact check a little bit here, and I'm glad I brought these prosecution commission reports up here, which are public, by the way. Disposition of warrants in the 15th Circuit, he addressed my good friend Jimmy Richardson, who does a fantastic job for y'all. Be thankful you got a great solicitor like Jimmy Richardson. Jimmy Richardson's office, who consequently, and I'm not begrudging this, has 3 times the number of lawyers I do in my circuit. And look, he does a great job. Disposition of warrants, 5-year average, fiscal year 21 to 25, 10,760. 8th Circuit, my circuit, which has a third of the number of lawyers, 8,573. So with 3 times the number of lawyers, not even twice the number that we're doing, a couple thousand more. But y'all, we're moving 8,500 warrants a year in my circuit with a third of the attorneys of a circuit that does 10,000 a year. And that's not criticizing Jimmy Richardson. That's just saying to try to make it look like I'm not moving cases in the 8th Circuit. Here's the data, y'all. I'll show you every single number right here.
We got one more here for you. This involves wetlands. So I'm going to let you guys decide who wants this one first. Which one of you 3 want this one first? Here's the question. If elected, would you get involved with and help to mitigate the environmental impact of continuing to build on wetlands? And would you delve into the many municipalities where incompatible zoning is permitted? And the examples would be here in Horry County and the city of Conway.
Read that second part one more time.
Okay, would you delve into the municipalities where incompatible zoning is permitted, i.e. Horry County and the city of Conway?
I'm happy to answer this. This has been an agenda item of mine since 2012 in the legislative arena and in the legal arena. Y'all, I'm going to make it simple. Growth should pay for growth. Okay? Let me say it again. Growth should pay for growth. You, all of you out here, us, we shouldn't have to pay for growth. The people that move from Ohio, God bless them, thank them for coming, okay? But at the end of the day, we shouldn't have to pay for that growth. They, when they show up, should pay for that growth. The roads, the bridges, the utilities, the water, the infrastructure, everything you see, we've all paid for with our tax dollars, our hard-earned tax dollars. When the guy from New Jersey or New York or Ohio, wherever, I mean, we're getting those people, those folks, great folks in large numbers. When they show up in South Carolina, they've paid nothing. They've actually paid an exit tax to get out of New York. Do we have an entry tax in South Carolina? Absolutely not, we don't. For years, I've been an advocate for a statewide impact fee to pay for growth. What should that statewide impact fee, whenever you show up in South Carolina, what should it pay for? It should pay for the roads. Because we can't afford another person to show up in South Carolina without fixing our roads. What else should it pay for? It should pay for the schools, because we can't afford another child to show up in our school district and stick them in a trailer out back. What else should we pay for? We should pay for developable green space to take those developments in the wetlands that would ultimately be filled by dirt and houses and tract homes. We should take those off of the map and conserve those forever, because those are the places that fill up with water and save us and our homes from being inundated with water. There's a way to do this, and yes, the Attorney General has a giant hand in this, because ultimately all of these fixes that I'm talking about are going to have to be litigated, y'all. They're going to be sued, and they're going to go right up the chain to the Supreme Court. And you know who's litigated these cases? I have. I've litigated these cases. I've litigated these environmental cases. This is what I do, y'all, agency state. I litigate these cases against the agency state who comes along on behalf of the environmental NGOs that extort all of us in South Carolina. And I say, no, that's enough. The citizen wins here, the environmental NGOs don't. The citizens win here, the water doesn't. And I'm proud of that record. And I think I'm the only one that's ever actually done that. And I'd be happy to do it as your next Attorney General. I'd be honored to do it as your next Attorney General. Thank you.
Repeat the question. That was a complex one.
Okay. If elected, will you get involved and help mitigate the environmental impact of continuing to build on wetlands? Would you delve into the many municipalities where incompatible zoning is permitted? And that is obviously a reference to Horry County and the city of Conway.
Yes, we need to protect the environment, but we need to do it responsibly. We don't need a AOC style Green New Deal in South Carolina. That's not helping anything. It's not helping business. What we need to do in the AG's office, and the AG's office handles environmental criminal prosecutions. That's one area where we need to make sure we're doing our jobs. But secondly, in terms of just setting public policy, we do need to let local governments make those decisions. Why do I say that, y'all? I don't want somebody in Columbia telling my county council in Greenwood or Lawrence decisions that they need to make locally about building and growth. Y'all, those county council members and those local governments are the closest to the people. They're a lot closer than, I'm not, as the Attorney General in Columbia, I'm not a constituent of the counties in Horry or Beaufort. So at the end of the day, we need to be responsible, we need to protect the environment, but we need to let the people of these areas choose their county council members to implement the policies with zoning, with responsible growth. That does not need to come from the AG's office in Columbia. The AG's office, if people get out of line and break environmental laws when they're building these new facilities, we need to make sure they're held into account for that. But just making everyday decisions about growth and approvals on building projects, that needs to be done locally, y'all.
David's 100% right. It needs to be done locally. But as Attorney General, I'm going to delve into anything where people are not doing it the right way. When we had that incident down, we got Captain Sam Spit down in Charleston, and the legislature decided at the last minute to give the developer $30-something million. That's something that we shouldn't be doing that. That's a case the Attorney General will win every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I would have opposed that deal as Attorney General, said I'll fight it in court, we're going to win it. Asking, will I delve into incompatible zoning? I absolutely will delve into it if it's done the wrong way. I absolutely will do it if there's no transparency. That's the Attorney General's job, to represent the people of the state and make sure big business isn't running us over so they can make a profit. I'll give you other examples. Silfab up in York County. When I'm Attorney General, I'm going to delve into that big time. When you have children having to be taken out of school twice in 1 week because of a spill, how dare we put a place that has dangerous chemicals within 1,000 yards of a school? We should be ashamed in South Carolina. All these solar companies, all these big businesses, their days of running roughshod in South Carolina and running roughshod over our legislature, local governments are going to come to an end with me. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to keep them out. What I'm saying is I'm going to create a level playing field. And I'm going to make sure we do everything the right way. And I'm going to make sure that our children are protected and our communities are protected. I'm going to pick citizens over businesses. Thank you.
Jack, unless you have a question there that you really like, in the interest of sticking with our agreed upon schedule, I would move to close.
Man, you're some kind of Svengali, man. You're reading my mind.
Yeah, all right, just check. Thank you.
How long do these gentlemen have for their closing arguments?
We said 2 minutes.
2 minutes to prove your case to why anybody here should vote for you. We'll start with Mr. Goldfinch.
Well, thank everybody for coming and spending a couple hours with us tonight. I know you could have done something different, and I appreciate you showing up and getting engaged. Again, I'd like to thank my family and giving me the opportunity to do this. I know sometimes it's crazy, but thank you so much. I'd like to thank Jimmy Richardson. I know Jimmy popped in and popped out. Jimmy's supported us from the very beginning and endorsed us as the solicitor here. I'd like to thank Sheriff Philip Thompson, who was here earlier and had to run out. Sheriff Thompson's endorsed us and supported us from the very beginning. I appreciate him. Y'all, I'm the most qualified person on this panel. I'm sorry. I know that's going to offend somebody. But at the end of the day, the Attorney General's office is a very important office in South Carolina. We have to have well-rounded, well-qualified people to do this job. I'm a veteran. I'm a military prosecutor. And yes, I have prosecuted sex crimes and assaults and batteries and all of the things that we talked about here today. Yes, I have. I am a judge advocate general. That's what we do, is to prosecute crimes. I'm a conservative senator. I have passed all of the laws that we're talking about, which give prosecutors the tools to hold bad guys accountable. And I'm a businessman and an entrepreneur. I have actually signed the fronts of checks and not just the backs of checks. I have not lived off of government my entire life. I have created economies in my life. I have created businesses. I have had employees, and I know what that feels like to have to fight the government just to make a living. I'm the only one that has done all of those things. And that makes me highly qualified for the job. I'm telling you these things, I hope not to sound arrogant, but I want you to know, I think I'm a good investment for South Carolina. I'm not going to start this job on day one walking or even running, but I'm going to start it sprinting. And I'd be honored to have your vote on June 9th. Thank you.
I want to thank you again for coming out here today. I want to apologize if these two lost their tempers at times. Being a Sicilian, I'm always calm. I never lose my temper. This past weekend, I had a conversation with someone who was very much a member of the good old boy Columbia establishment. He would admit that to you. And we had a great conversation, even though he's not supporting me. He's supporting someone up here on the stage. And I asked him, why are you guys only coming after me? Why are the trial lawyers and the lawyer legislators only coming after me? And this was what he told me. He said, because you are an existential threat to our machine. I appreciate his honesty. I've already told you about the things that I'm going to do, so now and you know why they're upset with me and why I'm an existential threat to them. Now I'm going to tell you why I'm passionate about how we need to protect our children better and why I'm passionate about corruption. The philosopher that I follow got mad 2 times in the book. He got mad when he talked about if anyone harms my children, they're better off with a millstone put around their neck and thrown in the depths of the sea. And he got very angry when there was corruption in the temples. And he started turning tables. And when I'm your Attorney General, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start turning tables in South Carolina. The biggest lie that my enemies say about me is that I am a wolf in sheep's clothing. I am a wolf in wolf's clothing. Make no mistake about it. And one thing that proves it, we were asked about would we call out solicitors. I'm the one person on this stage who has called out other solicitors, including Byron Gibson, when he did something that I thought was unethical and wrong, when he let a prisoner out of prison early. I will call you out even if you're my friend. I don't care what party you are. If you're corrupt, I'm going to come after you. So I'm going to just leave you with this. I'm going to close with this. The lawyer legislators and the trial lawyers think their millions of dollars can stop me from being Attorney General. I'm asking you to prove them wrong and vote for me to be your next Attorney General so we can crush corruption in South Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you. I only have 2 minutes. I'm going to take a quick moment and thank these guys, compliment my opponents here. Thank you, Stephen, for your service to our country and the military. That is worthy of honor and appreciation. David, thank you for service to our state as a prosecutor, courtroom prosecutor for all these decades. Y'all, we need strong, positive leadership in Columbia. You need strength, but you also need somebody who's going to bring people together to get after the right things in our state. We have a great state that needs to become greater. I've been a prosecutor my whole career and been protecting families, standing with law enforcement, working in the trenches as a courtroom prosecutor. I'm proud of that work, and we plan to do that on steroids if we do this as the Attorney General. We're going to take it to the next level, y'all. But the other thing is we need strong conservative values in Columbia. And I've stood for those. You know where I'm going to stand on life. You know where I'm going to stand on election integrity. You know where I'm going to stand on medical freedom. It's stuff Vanessa and I've lived as parents. We've lived the parental choice in education. We educated our kids in both homeschool, private school, and public school. We did all three options for our different kids because parents need to be in the driver's seat with that. I will stand for your Second Amendment rights. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun, y'all, is a good guy with a gun. And your Second Amendment rights are never going to be under attack when I'm your AG. And so, in closing, the reason why I believe that we have the best background and vision for the state of South Carolina is I've been a lifetime conservative Republican who's also been in the courtroom and in the trenches fighting crime and keeping your family safe. And because of those two primary reasons, look forward to having your vote and your support on June the 9th. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.